You're craving some tacos, so you open DoorDash and notice you can get the tacos now, but pay for them in 4 small payments spread out over 2 months. Klarna's buy now, pay later option has gotten millions to ditch their credit cards for everything from furniture to engagement rings. But it was founded way back in 2005 by a broke Swedish kid who once had to pawn his belongings and got laughed out of every pitch. This is Klarna's epic rise to become one of the world's largest fintech unicorns. Sebastian Siemiatkowski grew up as a Polish immigrant in Sweden who had to survive for weeks on bland pancakes.
So I remember that with my mom, like there were weeks when, we were eating pancakes every day. And I thought that was great, but now I realize it was because there was nothing left.
But after seeing his parents divorce, he began believing that money can ease pain and set out to learn business to follow in the footsteps of Richard Branson and Ingvar Kamprad. After a period of post-college travel, he landed in Stockholm right after the dot-com bubble had burst. He applied to countless big companies and consulting firms like McKinsey, but got 0 interviews.
So I tried to kind of go to PwC or these kind of places that somebody with an economical background should work at, but I didn't get a job.
Instead, he got a job cold calling businesses for a collections agency. In 2005 in Sweden, credit cards were uncommon, and many people paid for things via Invoice, where they would receive the item and then pay for it a few days later. Collections agencies were a common necessity for when people didn't pay. Sebastian got hung up on a lot, but he noticed a trend with early e-commerce companies. These fast-growing startups didn't really need the cash that the collections agency was promising to retrieve for them. They just didn't want to be responsible for the financial risk or deal with the administrative burden around invoices and collections.
The thing you want to avoid, the risk of the customer not paying, because that was one thing that they were very worried about. The second thing that the merchant was very worried about was the administration. Those were the 2 primary concerns, not the cash flow.
Sebastian realized he could take Sweden's unique invoice culture and turn it into a business that serves these e-commerce merchants globally.
So buy now, pay later made a lot of sense. It's not about credit for borrowing money. It was to provide safety and trust to the consumer that I can touch and feel this thing before I part with my money.
The model he created delays payouts to merchants, but in exchange, Klarna absorbs the financial risk from the transaction, and they handle all the admin work. If someone doesn't pay, Klarna's the one left holding the bag, not the merchant. He knew it was a big idea that businesses would love, and after bringing in friends Nicholas Adalberth and Victor Jakobsson as co-founders, they pitched the idea at the Stockholm School of Economics incubator. But it didn't go well, and neither did meeting with the top Swedish VCs or over 20 other investors. Even pitch competition judges told Sebastian the idea would just never work at scale. Simply put, nobody wanted to fund them. Some investors thought the idea was too niche, but most just didn't trust these 3 inexperienced 20-somethings with no product who were going to take on a ton of financial risk with their business model. After being laughed out of nearly every pitch, they were weeks away from giving up when they met Jane Wallerud, one of Sweden's most respected early-stage investors.
We asked our business angel to give us $40,000. She gave us $60,000 for 10% of the company. And we said at that point in time, look, we only need $40,000 to come to profitability. And she's like, no, you're going to need 60.
But she also did something that was rare at the time. She introduced them to a team of engineers from a consulting firm she had connections with. Now, today, every VC firm brags about their value add, but back then, most investors just offered capital. Jane was different. The engineers she introduced them to built Klarna's first MVP in their spare time over the course of 4 months. But instead of being paid cash, they took a huge chunk of equity in the business, roughly 37%. That meant that after only 1 investor had gotten on board, nearly half of Klarna was already owned by outside contributors rather than the founders. But it worked. By the time they'd spent $30K of Jane's $60K investment, they were already profitable. Their unconventional business model was working, which gave them confidence that as they scaled, they'd be able to preserve equity by funding the company through their deals with merchants rather than solely relying on investors. All of a sudden, that 37% they'd given to the engineers didn't look quite so bad. Fast forward to 2014. Klarna is doing $257 million in revenue and has grown to over 1,000 employees. Their trust-based model was a hit. They just expanded to the UK with major merchants like ASOS, Sephora, and Macy's as partners. And their success in a mature credit card market like the UK gave Sebastian confidence in moving ahead with a US expansion as well. Originally, even Sebastian had believed that buy now, pay later wouldn't work in markets with dense credit card penetration. But after the 2008 financial crisis, US consumer preferences had started to shift. A May 2014 report by McKinsey first coined the term self-aware avoiders to describe how a segment of US consumers were now wary of traditional credit cards.
McKinsey estimated that group to be about 20% of the US population. They're called self-aware avoiders.
Sebastian realized these Americans were becoming more like Swedes in terms of how they wanted to pay for things, preferring debit cards and avoiding the interest risk of credit cards. Over the next few years, Klarna expanded into the US, targeting the avoiders, and noticed that Gen Z in particular preferred their model. But competitors like Afterpay, Affirm, and others had also begun to pop up around the world. In the US, Klarna was losing buy now, pay later market share to Afterpay, who had more merchants on board. So Sebastian had to get creative. They built a full-service shopping browser inside the Klarna app, allowing users to generate a virtual Visa card and shop at any merchant, regardless of if they were partnered with Klarna or not, even Amazon. Sebastian knew this was the next big opportunity and pivoted the company away from being a payment processor for merchants like Stripe or Adyen, and instead becoming a consumer brand with shopping and personal finance tools right inside the app, like price alerts, order tracking, return management, and the browser. Growth exploded, and VCs were paying attention. In 2021, Klarna announced a fundraising round at a $45.6 billion valuation, which made them Europe's most valuable private tech company. But then markets crashed, and just 1 year later, Klarna's valuation plunged to just $6.7 billion. At one point, the company was burning $1 billion a year, leading to layoffs and intense media scrutiny. Sebastian endured hostile interviews, boardroom tension, and countless comparisons to the WeWork saga. But when he heard about this new product going crazy viral online called ChatGPT, Sebastian realized the next big opportunity for Klarna was staring him right in the face.
So I jump on a plane to San Francisco, pretending I have other business, but the only reason is to meet Sam.
At first, OpenAI was skeptical. After all, Klarna was a bank, and they were based in Europe, far away from San Francisco. And they weren't exactly known as the fastest moving tech company. But Sebastian was determined, and his team pushed hard. They set up Slack channels with OpenAI and started testing everything. One of their earliest successes was replacing traditional employee surveys with AI-powered interviews, free-form conversations that summarized morale better than a 1 to 5 rating scale ever could. But customer support was the breakthrough use case. The AI copilot they built handled tickets better than humans in under 2 months, and it brought resolution time from 14 minutes to 2 minutes while having better customer satisfaction. Within a year, Klarna had stopped hiring entirely and instead was fully focused on cutting duplication, using AI to improve ops and scale without adding headcount or needing to do layoffs. Even though Klarna hasn't IPO'd, Sebastian says they're not a unicorn anymore. They're a tiger company. His definition of a tiger company: AI leveraged, doing a minimum of 5 to 10 million in revenue per employee, and has minimal duplication of efforts across the company.
Within 6 to 12 months, we will start recognizing a few companies that have really taken AI to the core of what they do, have really reimagined how they work, how they ship code, how they ship product features. And I think that what you will start seeing is those companies accelerating ahead.
After 2 decades, Klarna isn't just a payments company. It's a living experiment of constant reinvention. One that almost collapsed, but rose again by embracing AI, a new clarity of purpose, and a return to Sebastian's founder instincts.